Right, this being the appointed time and place and seeing a quorum present, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Recognized members' presence are Alderpersons Arnett, Arts, and Moldenauer. Our first item is comments and suggestions from citizens present. We have no one in the room. Does not have anyone online. I'd like to make a comment at this time. Oh, all right. Then our next item is to review and approve minutes. We have two sets of minutes from May 6th, where the only action was to appoint a chairperson, and May 13th, which was a normal meeting. Any comments or corrections on the minutes or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the Public Works minutes from May 6th and from May 13th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have three items of business this evening. The first is to review and take action on purchasing a sewer 747 FR 2000 Eco Trailer Jetter from Brown Equipment Company for $103,055.64. Over to staff.
Good evening. At the wastewater treatment plant, there are two lines that run from the very, most southwest corner of the facility all the way down to our sludge handling building, which is over 900 feet away. These two lines move activated sludge from the activated sludge tanks down to the digesters. Over the 20 plus years that they've been in the ground, slowly over time, a hard surface, like mineral deposit called struvites formed on these inside of these pipes, and they're getting smaller and smaller. And one of them is actually plugged all the way up now. We looked into trying to use our own equipment to unplug it. We have a machine called a rodder. It runs like a metal rod line. We're doing that. It broke the metal rod doing that. So we were like, okay, this isn't going to work. Then we reached out to some outside contractors, finally got one to give us a bid. And it was going to be like, I put it in my memo here. I think it was $26,575 for the first 12 hours of them coming to work on cleaning out these pipes for us. And then almost 10,000 for any additional hours for like a 12-hour span. So we're like, all right, well, I'm sure we could find, like a trailer mounted jetter. We could do this work ourselves. And we got a company, Brown Equipment, brought one, the one we're asking to purchase today. They brought it and they let us do a demo with it. And we were able to we went 300 feet up the line. So it worked great. We're like, okay, if we purchase this piece of equipment, we could do this work ourselves and, do this make it more of a preventative maintenance thing once we get it all the way cleaned out, and we shouldn't have this issue ever again in the future. The reason our big jetter truck does not work is you have to access these pipes, you have to get inside the building. We don't have a means to get the truck inside where we need this piece of equipment to access the pipes. So, like I said, we've used it. It worked flawlessly. And the reason that we are suggesting or we're recommending going with this unit not only is the fact that we've used it and we know it worked great, but also they have one that's going to be in stock June 1st. And the other two that I have quotes for, one was a 3 to 4 month lead time, and the least expensive unit, the lead time was sometime, he said, around the end of the year, which with having one pipe already plugged solid and another one that we know is kind of choked off already. Waiting 3-4 months or up to, 7 months from now is not really feasible for us. It's too much of a risk that we could have these pipes completely plugged. So that's kind of the history on it. As far as the funding, when we purchased the new combination sewer cleaner truck, that came in at 124,692 under budget. So we're asking to use some of those funds to cover the cost of this trailer jetter. It wasn't a specific item that we had put in like the CIP, but we did have the truck in there. And we came in under budget enough to cover the cost of this. So we have the funds already allocated for something like that. Same, like I said, it's doing the same kind of work, just it fits into more of a compact area, which is what we need. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Questions from commission members? I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Is there any other application for this unit other than these two lines of question?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we were talking just the other day. So like we have the sewer jetting truck, right? Big vac truck. And we take that whenever we get a call for one house that says my sewer's backed up. And we respond to that, and we bring that truck, and there's 2 of our staff that use that almost every day, right? The other staff, they use it maybe 1 day every 3 months because we try to do some just kind of refresher training on it, but it's a $500,000 piece of equipment that not everyone operates all the time. It does basically the same work that this unit does, except this doesn't vac, right? So this wouldn't suck up debris. So on the times when those staff members who don't use that piece of equipment often get called in because they're on call for emergencies to respond, they could take this unit with them and they could unplug a sewer with this piece of equipment that is much easier to use, I would say, and not as expensive if something went wrong and, they did something wrong and wrecked it because they don't use it often, so that it can be used for that too. So it would be kind of the response piece of equipment for our staff that's on call that doesn't operate the big jetter truck every day, that's unfamiliar with it.
So for those 2 pipes that you have, the one is basically completely.
One's plugged. Yeah,
Is that the one you tested this unit on?
Yes. So we ran it up 300 feet and then we ran our camera. We have a robot so we can send up the sewers. We ran a camera up there to see how well it had done. And that 300 feet it had removed that material. Right. But it was just a demonstration. So I was like, hey, can I do the whole 1,000 feet? No. Right. I thought that was maybe pushing it. And we did have the other line that was still.
It's not fun, the worst case.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they, and then, like I said, they went kind of above and beyond. That's not normally something they do with a demo, but I think once the guy, the salesman, once he kind of got into it, he's like, this is kind of cool. Let's see. And then he could share that story too, I'm sure, with other, other communities. So. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I have concerns over applying over the funding source.
Okay.
I'll share my concerns. When we approve a budget, it's a rather extensive process, and particularly for the capital items, there's a lot of weighing of things going on, this or that, this or that, this or that. And it's true that we, in the end, approved a amount of money, but that was amount of money for a certain set of projects.
Sure.
And I'll be consistent with what I said last time I was on council, which is if a project comes under budget, great, thank you.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that money is available to be spent, in my mind. I'm speaking for myself.
Mhm.
Does not mean that money is now available to be spent. Great, we came under budget. So that's my concern number 1. My concern number 2 is if we're going to consider those kinds of expenses, additional expenses, again, through a budget process, we have a number of items laid out in front of us and we're weighing choices.
Sure.
In this instance, it's one and only one thing.
Mhm.
Here, this. And I have found over time that that can lead one to making short-sighted decisions, because we have this and we have other things that add up over the year, and maybe we have enough to do something very big we didn't think we could get to, and instead we've done all these little things.
Mhm.
So I have this general concern. I'll say tonight, I do not plan to draw a line in the sand on this item because we've not worked together. And
Sure.
I'm expressing my concerns. My fellow commission members may not feel the same way, but in the future, I will be a little more adamant on this issue of if it wasn't part of the plan, then, and we come under budget, then let's come back with a more comprehensive view on things so that we can make what it feels a more informed decision. And there are cases, again, more so in the general budget than in these utility fund budgets, where really need to take the perspective of that's the taxpayers' money. It's not just money available to be spent.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. That's good to know. Like going
So,
forward,
kind of-
that
works, so I'm
I-
letting you know how. it
yeah,
works.
we worded it that way, just like, hey, we have it in this fund.
Yeah.
There's money available. I mean, I could have easily said, we're gonna take this out of this other fund that is for, purchasing items that, something comes up, and I could have chosen a different funding source than that, and that's good to know going forward. We have something like this. Don't earmark it off the savings from another budget item, allocate it out of
My
a,
perspective, yeah.
no, that's,
May not.
and that's great. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
So that would be easily avoided, that concern like that in the future. No problem.
So if there are no.
Just
questions-
one question.
Yeah.
Is there some way that you can have someone come in and take care of the problem right now to take care of the problem at hand?
Well, yeah, we did look into that, and yes, but it would cost about $30,000.
$30,000.
So, we feel pretty good that this is going to, I mean, this has been ongoing for months, right? That this problem's getting worse, we knew it was getting more and more plugged. How are we gonna respond to it? That's why it took us several months to just get the one quote from somebody. It's not, there's not a lot of companies that do that type of work. They're all contracted with big contracts, big cleaning projects, they're clean like a storm sewer, right? We just contracted somebody to clean miles and miles of storm sewer. So this one-off, like, hey, can you come clean our 2 900-foot long pipes? That is hard to get access to, it wasn't maybe an attractive project, so we didn't get much return on, from our calls to these places, so.
The question being, though,
Yeah.
this $30,000, that would get us to the point where this next year's budget would be in place maybe, and then we could look at what you're talking about now.
Potentially, yeah, like I said, I don't know their schedule. I don't have it like, oh, you got some, they might have to have time. This wasn't, when we reached out to them, it wasn't like, hey, in the event of an emergency, could you come and take care of this for us? Within a week or two. I don't know that, so, but when I was able to was June 1st, if we had this, we could take care of it ourselves right away in June 1st.
But again, understood your memo. The one quote you had for a service provider to come in, it was $27,000 for the first 12 hours.
Yeah,
And
right,
Basically another $10,000 for every additional 12-hour period.
right. And I don't know how
And we
long,
don't know how long it could take.
I do not know that.
It could be 12 hours, it could be 24 hours.
It
could
very
be
easily could.
36 hours.
Right, this is not, even if we purchase, this is not going to probably be like, oh, we just do it this first time when it's really, really plugged. It's not gonna be like, oh, you just go knock it out in a couple hours. It's going to take us a couple of days to work our way slowly through it. clean a little bit, pull that material out, go a little further, you know. So yeah, the first time I could not guarantee, yeah, they'll be done in less than 12 hours.
So I get your point. I just think there's a tipping point here. at
Right.
which If we're already in for potentially 40 this year and we can own the unit for 100.
That's what we, like, once we got that,
I'm gonna rent the service, and then go ahead and buy it. If I'm gonna end up.
yeah, right. So that was definitely the reason we were like, you know what, it to us, it's like, this makes perfect financial sense to make this purchase. Sure, it's 3 times as much. But over the course of this thing's lifespan, we're gonna clean those pipes more than 3 times.
Yeah, that thing is, that would be a repeat expenditure.
Right.
Coming back. We don't know how often.
A- a-
2 years from now, you know.
Absolutely, it sure could, yes. Yep,
I'm kind of understanding that principle of.
yep,
Yeah, the trade-off here, but probably within a 5-year span. It makes better sense for us to own it in this case, because we do this kind of work often enough.
yeah, absolutely, yes.
And one other question.
Sure.
On a warranty basis, how long would this be warranted for, guaranteed for?
Oh, I should know that off the top of my head. Is it limited warranty?
I'm missing
Hmm.
on the quote.
There is no. I think I'd have to have, I don't think it's in the quote. I think I'd have to have that. Oh, hold on. It might be in this part here.
What did it say?
I apologize. I don't have
Could
that.
you
I don't have
Get that clarified.
Absolutely.
When it comes to council.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. I don't see it right here. I should have looked that up. That was I should have expected that question. So, apologize, but yes, I will have that before it goes to council.
That'd be
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then do I hear a motion to recommend this to council?
I would recommend the council.
No, second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our next item is our Southport Engineered Systems to install a new HVAC system for the wastewater department administration building for a total cost of $112,585.
Yes. So, the HVAC system in the admin building, which is where, all of our offices are, but also the lab, has reached the end of its serviceable life. It's failing more and more frequently, and the main concern and the issue with it is when the system was designed, it was it is so overly complicated. It uses this software program called Metasys, which is a Johnson Controls program, and you can go in there and you can open and close every damper and monitor, you know, the air inside, outside, in each duct. It's crazy. So whenever something goes wrong with it, we can't repair it ourselves. We have to bring in Johnson's Controls, and it's happening more and more often. And the real problem with it is that it operates the heating and cooling for the lab. The lab has to maintain like 70 degrees plus or minus 2 degrees every day of the year, 365 days a year. And the system is not doing that consistently. And we've had some issues with our test results then not coming out accurately and being almost outside of our requirements, or for like discharge, like you can't have over a certain amount of BOD, and the BOD test doesn't work right. If the temperature in the room it was 55 degrees in there one day because the air conditioning would not shut off. It just wouldn't stop. So we've come to the point where like, look, we just want a simple, like a thermostat, a system, a heating and cooling that's just for the lab, run by a thermostat that anyone can work on, right? Any HVAC company could come and work on this carrier unit for us. And then a separate one for the admin, the office space, right? So we can guarantee a more consistent temperature in the lab, and we aren't stuck with exclusively having Johnson Controls come to work on this. We're basically simplifying it. And the unit's almost 25 years old, which is pretty typical for our HVAC system to be expected to last for. So, with that, we got the 3 quotes. Southport Engineering Systems came in significantly under, and their price also includes the electrical and getting state-approved plans submitted, and that is a total of $112,585. And for this project, the funding would come from the equipment replacement fund, which is a fund that we have set aside at wastewater for just this type of thing. Like if we have since I've been here, we had our heat exchangers. That's a thing that heats up the digested sludge. The one cracked, and it wasn't something you could repair. You couldn't just weld the crack, and we had to buy new units. That's where this fund, we have this money set aside for when large piece of equipment fails and needs to be replaced. So that's where we're going to take the funding from.
Questions from commission members? Was this brought up during budget time?
I think so, yes. But we didn't have the quotes at that time. But we knew we have enough in the equipment replacement fund. Once we know a number, we'll be able to. Because it's been an ongoing problem for a couple of years, and we've been making it work, but within the this winter, which would have been after budget time, is when it was like, okay, we're not going to make it another winter where we have it bringing in, 20-degree air and the air conditioning's running at the same time, kind of stuff like that's been happening. And it's just, we can't have it, especially with the lab. It's too vital to have that temperature maintained every day of every year.
Okay. No other questions, then I'll hear a motion to recommend to council. Okay. You, and a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our last item. Is award Emmett Utility Extension Design Contract to SEH Inc. for $64,800.
All right, the background on this one is included in your packet. There is quite a bit of history on this one, and I'll touch on the high notes and answer any questions that might come up. This item is the result of a long-term intergovernmental agreement between the city of Watertown and the town of Emmett that went into effect in the late 90s, early 2000s, and was renewed about, I want to say 15 years later. It was renegotiated and approved at the council level. So in that agreement, there was a condition that 4 areas be annexed into the city of Watertown. This 4th and final area, currently the topic of tonight's discussion, is called the Highway 16 residential area. Back in June of 2024, connection to municipal sewer and water was discussed at the commission level. One condition of that intergovernmental agreement was this area had to connect to city sewer and water 1 year after annexation occurred. A number of options were given as to, you know, do we do nothing? Do we annex and assess? Do we fund with city dollars? And ultimately, the commission in June of 2024 moved to set up a special assessment district and move forward with design in 2025 and construction following the next year with the intention of some or all of those design and construction fees being recouped via the assessment process. So Public Works Department went out for requests for proposals earlier this year. Proposals were due back on May 16th, and we received 4 proposals from qualified engineering firms. Using a modified qualification-based selection where firms are graded and scored based on their qualifications, the project team, history with similar projects, things like that, and then factoring in costs after proposals are scored. SEH out of Delafield, Wisconsin, and Kapoor out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, ranked equally at 84.3. That had never happened for me personally, but SEH, having beat Kapoor on cost by about $20,000, is receiving the recommendation this evening. This project will be funded through 4 accounts. This would be a 4-way split between the water utility capital account, wastewater utility sewer rehab account, stormwater utility capital account, and the annual street reserve account. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer as best I can.
Members,
I have a quick,
please.
Andrew, this is just for sewer and water, correct?
The scope on this one is sewer, water, and in looking at the pavement condition and the drainage system condition, the design project includes roadway and drainage improvements as well. Figuring that if we're going to be touching these areas, we might as well be doing full reconstruction, at least considering them. The funding of, you know, the roadway and sewer, the storm sewer improvements to be determined during the assessment process, if that's going to be funded using, you know, storm sewer utility dollars, capital dollars, or assessed with the rest of the project.
Thank you.
Questions? So from a budgeting perspective, was not included in the 2025 budget?
The design was, we've got pots of money in each separate utility fund and the annual street reserve for future years design, and this project was earmarked within those pots of money.
Oh, that helps clarify. One thing to say, if we're gonna draw it from these, another thing to say, we did budget for it.
Yep.
Within those funds.
Yeah, we identified it before the August, kind of working through the budget process, and it was included in the budgets.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a follow-up question to that. So we're going through the design effort now. Do you have some kind of an estimate of when the actual work would be done?
Yeah, roughly, and we've got it laid out in a table, but I believe we're gonna finish up design this year and then shoot for a February bid and project award for a spring, summer construction start of 2026.
Okay, thanks.
And part of that design process will be creating that assessment district. Once we have that cost estimate, we'll have a better idea of how to work through that.
Okay, other comments or questions on this item?
Question on the future, when you say an assessment district.
Mhm.
I'm not entirely certain if we had come to a conclusion as to how we were going to fund this, if we were going to charge ratepayers at hookup, do a special assessment. Has that conversation happened at finance and I just missed it, or?
My direction, this is going back to June of last year, was to move ahead with creating that special assessment district and the design. Part of the assessment process is you can assess for all, some, or none. So just because you're going through the assessment process doesn't mean you have to charge. When we assessed for sidewalk on East Main Street, kind of by the middle school and cemetery area, the cemetery came before this commission and requested to be excluded from that assessment charging process, and they weren't charged for that particular project. So there's probably more to work through. but there's some flexibility in that process.
Okay, so the assessment doesn't actually start the ball, well, I guess it does start the ball rolling on how we charge. It's simply putting the number on it, not the time frame of when the payments are due. If I'm correct, if I'm understanding, okay.
I think so, and we'd be working with our finance director to make sure, if we can stretch those payments longer, if we do move forward with special assessment charging.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this item? If not, do I hear a motion to recommend to council?
So moved.
Seconds?
A second.
Seconded to recommend to council. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And there being no other items of business for this evening, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Moved. And second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:03.
Guys, I put this in my calendar for 6 o'clock.
I've done that before.
When I did it as a